The hydrologic cycle, also known as the water cycle, describes how water flows continuously on, under, and above the Earth's surface. The total amount of water on Earth remains remarkably constant over time, but the distribution of water among the large reservoir of ice, fresh water, saline water, and atmospheric water varies due to several climatic influences. The physical processes of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, and subsurface flow transport water from one reservoir to another, such as from a river to the ocean or from the ocean to the atmosphere. Water takes many forms because of this liquid, solid, and vapor. The water cycle entails energy exchange, which results in temperature shifts. Water absorbs energy from its surroundings and cools the atmosphere as it evaporates. It releases electricity and warms the atmosphere as it condenses. These heat exchanges have an effect on the atmosphere. Water is purified during the evaporation process of the cycle, and then replenishes the soil with fresh water. Minerals are transported around the world by the flow of liquid water and ice. It also plays a role in reshaping the Earth's geographical features by mechanisms such as erosion and sedimentation. The water cycle is therefore essential for the survival of most living things and habitats on Earth.
Anthropogenic effects. Processes, objects, or materials are those that are derived from human activities, as opposed to those occurring in natural environments with or without human influences. Human activities have a large impact on the global water cycle. Changes in the hydrological cycle caused by anthropogenic factors vary in scale and type depending on the forms and severity of human impact, geography, and the size of the territory affected. Depending on the factors, the resulting changes can range from local to global in scope. These are some of the examples of anthropogenic effects. Number 1 is hydroelectricity. It involves changing the stored gravitational energy of water held behind the dam into the electrical energy that can be used. While this is a non-polluting renewable way to generate electricity, it does have an environmental impact, especially when mismanaged. The second one is greenhouse effect. The combustion of fossil fuels contributes to the overall rise in Earth's temperature. Raising the Earth's temperature may result in increased evaporation, ice melting, or other water cycle processes that have a negative impact on the planet's climate. Next is deforestation. It may have an effect on the weather in a region because less trees means less water evaporates into the atmosphere, resulting in less rain. Droughts and flooding may become more common, affecting plants and animals as well as humans living near deforested areas. The last is irrigation. It removes water from its natural source and often causes leaching and runoff where it is used.
Epigenetics is the study of how the behavior and environment can cause changes that affect the way genes work. Epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change the DNA sequence, but it can change how the body reads a DNA sequence. Based on the article entitled The Role of Epigenomics in Aquatic Toxicology, the role of epigenetics in understanding the dynamics of ecosystem function and response to stressors remains poorly characterized. It is clear, however, that epigenetics provides the foundation for local and short-term adaptation to environmental change, and that epigenetic dysregulation is a key player in the development of adverse outcomes. Epigenetic mechanisms allow organisms to adapt to local environment and environmental cues. Epigenetic markers have been shown to be altered following chemical exposure. There is a well-established linkage among epimutation, dysregulation of epigenetic enzymes or DNMT, and the manifestation of disease states. Epigenetics is obviously relevant to our understanding of the impacts of pollutant released into environmental media, an area that remains relatively poorly studied. Epigenetics may be useful for understanding and predicting differences in susceptibility within and among populations.
Aquatic invasive species are also known as nuisance or exotic species that are non-native species that threaten the diversity of abundance of native species due to their rapid population growth, causing ecological or economic impacts. Recent impacts of aquatic invasive species includes displace or otherwise harm native species, alter ecosystem processes, reduce biodiversity, cause illnesses in animals and humans, cause severe economic impacts, reduce property values, increase operating costs of drinking water plants, power plants, dam maintenance, and industrial processes, reduce native species, and lastly, degrade ecosystem. Managing aquatic invasive species. First is the prevention. Prevention strategies are the most effective and economical way of reducing invasive species spread. Next is early detection. Prevention will not stop all invasions, but early detections on populations when they are still small and localized increases the probability that we can suppress them. Next is the diagnosis. Identify species impacts on native diversity and monitor for any spread and new effects of the species. Next is the treatment options. Effective suppressions and rigorous testing to identify habitats where those treatments will be effective, and understanding on how new and traditional options can be integrated. Lastly is the rehabilitation. The effects of efforts to suppress aquatic invasive can be short-lived. Even relatively mild treatment can have side effects that increase species susceptibility to infestation, so rehabilitation is a must.
Water is very important for living creatures and humans here on Earth. And like what we said, let's take care of it while still can. And that's the end of Damaging Life on Water by the Salvatore.